everyone, welcome to the episode of KCrush American Magazine's featured interviews. I'm your host, Karen Hines, film culture critic and journalist, and this is one of my special interviews for the 2025 Minikino Film Week and Minikino International Short Film Festival here in Bali, Indonesia. And today, I'm joined by producer Alemberg to discuss the short film Water Sports by Whammy Alcazaren, and it is a very interesting short film. It's a short film about these two boys in school who are facing the end of the world, the catastrophic end of the world. The oceans have dried up, there's barely any source of natural water around them, the earth is hot, it's blazing hot, and they're at the school with their friends, and one person who I'm guessing is the principal, being oblivious to it all. And it's about conservation, it's about environmentalism, but it's also about love and finding love at the end of the world. And it's a very visually intense film, but also very visually interesting film in that every scene is intentional and everything has a message. And we're going to get into that. But first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, Alemberg.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I usually begin my interviews by asking my guests to say a bit about themselves and how they became interested in the film industry. So how did you become a producer in the Philippines?
It is completely by accident. I studied mass communication in college, but I never practiced. I went into education. I went to teaching.
Okay.
I taught in an all-boys high school for 10 years.
Okay.
And then I got super burned out. Because by then I was the department chair, so I was dealing more with parents and teachers as opposed to dealing with students, which is why why I came to love teaching. So I got super burned out, and then I left, and I was hoping maybe I should try corporate world, or try something that pays more. And then all of a sudden I have a friend who got into Cinemalaya, which is a Philippine independent film festival. They get a small grant where you do a feature and then you compete during the festival. And then he asked me, do I want to produce this film? And I said, well, I didn't practice in college, so I've never had any professional experience. And then he was like, oh, that's fine. You have Chinese blood. Just handle the money and we'll be fine. And that's basically how everything started.
What subject did you teach?
Philippine literature.
Literature. Oh, okay. This may seem like a completely unrelated question, but literature is very much related to the film industry. Like for instance, I think Water Sports is makes a lot of literary references. Thank you. I think it makes a lot of literary references to religion, but also history, but also I think
pop culture.
Pop culture. There's a lot of pop culture references, not just in Filipino and I think East and Southeast Asian culture, but I think international culture. Like people who are on social media a lot will get like a lot of references in the film. Also, if you watch like a lot of BL dramas as well, there's references we get.
And we are the only Catholic country in Asia, and a lot of us went to Catholic schools, and so there's so many references to Catholic being in an all-boys Catholic school,
and part of Catholicism is being reading literature, right? Like not only the Bible, but there's also like a thing about reading the classics, European classics, right? So when you were a teacher, did you ever have any discussions with your students about literature and film and
definitely. I teach specifically Philippine literature, so anything written by Filipino authors, whether it be in Filipino or in English, or in any other language. And we, of course, film is part of it. Film is a form of this can be considered a literary piece, and so we do watch films, we do read scripts, as part of their education.
So you see, it kind of did transition how we transitioned into being a producer, right? So talk a bit about that first experience of being a producer and having zero experience.
Well, essentially, I'm the oldest on-the-job trainee on set as a producer. So I was just literally learning everything during my first film, and I was already the producer. So I was finding out how things work and things like that. However, since I was a department chair, I knew how to run a department. I knew how to run a classroom, how to run events in school. So basically, how I did all those, that's what I used in running a set.
And working in the Philippine film industry, what do you think has been one of the biggest changes from when you first began to now? I'm working on a project like water sports. I'm working with a filmmaker like
a lot has changed, especially after the pandemic. So audiences it's harder to find the audience. Of course, film festival is still there, but audiences outside the festival, that's tough. Also funding, although there are more funding for art house films, but at the end of the day, I mean, government funding will not be enough, to produce an entire film. And things have gotten pretty expensive. Basically, bottom line, and things have become pretty expensive to shoot, to use in production. At the same time, not much revenue is coming in, so that's a very tricky situation.
And for a film like water sports, where it's mainly set in one location, which is this school. But the thing with the film, it uses a lot of VFX and a lot of special effects, and
so it may look like it's set in one school.
It's different locations.
But Whammy is very, very particular about the look of each scene and each location. So all those are from different locations, just stitched together.
So talk about getting a budget for a film like that and finding the locations for that, because again, like you mentioned, like things are more expensive now. And not only do you have different locations, but you have all of these individual set pieces.
Yes.
And while many of them could be pieces that you can get from, like, for instance, like a thrift store, for the sake of budget reasons, but also like you want something that looks random but is very specific. It's gonna cost you. The cost is gonna build up eventually, because like they all have to be very intentionally sending a message. They're not random. They look random, but they're not. And like.
And Whammy is a production designer by profession, so he is very particular about the look and the design.
So what was it like? Like working out the budget for a film like this, and like wanting to keep to Whammy's artistic integrity, but being like, you know what, Whammy, we gotta.
Well, if it's out of the budget, Whammy knows how much it will cost, and then he may have to pay for them. Especially if it's a short, right? And I am prepared that if it's a Whammy short, we have to spend more than what we initially budgeted for, because he is very precise and very exact in what he wants. And so at the end of the day, he knows how things cost and how things will work out, and of course for me, I will push if I think it's worth the cost. But if I think it's just too frivolous and it won't affect the film too much, I will try my best to convince him and stop him from spending.
Okay, and we're talking a bit about the budget, so I wanted to ask about just the VFX budget. Like, what is it like making a film that has this kind of VFX budget in the Philippines?
So you befriend VFX people who will do it for cheap or almost for free. Because Whammy works in advertising, so a lot of the people who work with him worked in advertising, and as I wouldn't say it's a soulless industry, but a lot of them look towards, I can explore my creativity in someone's short film, and then be willing to come on board with little or even to no fee. Just so that they can play around, and as you can see, it's a very playful film, so they can really play around with stuff, and a lot of them came on board simply for that. Even the actors, we hired, like they love Whammy's work. I've worked with him also in the past, and so he was like, he was very excited to work with us, and then.
When did your working relationship with Whammy begin? Because you have not only water sports, we have a few other projects that you've made with him, and one that I think he said that is in currently.
We did one,
and he's working on the feature version of water sports, right? So, but when did your working relationship begin? Because I think for a filmmaker, like he has such a very particular eye, and is very particular about how he wants his films to look and the story he's telling. He has to find someone who fully believes and is convinced of his vision, and he has a vision that not everyone would understand. So how did that happen?
I think we started working as early as 2012, maybe, or even earlier. He was the production designer for one of the TV series that I produced, but it was for a news TV, so it was how do you call this? An issue-driven series. And we're very, very art house and independent when we were doing it. And he was the production designer from then. And then from then, I worked with him on several other production design work. And so we've known each other for quite some time. And every time we would work on the film, I would maybe help in a way, either be a consulting producer or just be a supporter for his films. Yes, until finally he wanted to do he wanted to work in the international co-production space, and so that's when he asked me to produce his past short, which was called Bold Eagle, and then now Water Sparks, which is the second film of his that I produced.
And how is working with Whammy different than working with other filmmakers?
Oh, it's very different.
You should see your face.
It's very. He is super particular, very, very exact, and very, very precise. He storyboarded the whole film using photos from the actual location,
right.
And then he has video clips of what the meme or what the VFX of the scene
right.
will look like even before we shot. So he was very exact. And you know that scene where there are a lot of kids exercising?
Yeah, when they're in the swimming pool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Took forever to film that because he wants, the arms at the above of the person must be here.
Yeah.
This person running must be in this exact place.
Yeah.
The person doing the sit-up must be... it took forever to do that scene. But you can tell, right, how meticulous and how measured each person was in that scene.
It was. And speaking about the characters, talk about casting, because the thing about the casting for this film, we talk about the meticulousness of the set designs. Like there are so many references to Catholicism and Christianity and the whole idea of like being like the tortured Catholic students, the tortured, like the people who grew up in the Catholic Church but they left the church, and like there's that whole, I'm not Catholic, I grew up, I'm more like Pentecostal, and then there was a Seventh-day Adventist, but I do know people who are Catholic or went to Catholic school, so they have this whole guilty Catholic conscience. So there's so many references in that film, but one of the things that I think that ties into that is the casting. And what I noticed about the character, the actors who play these students, not only are they're all male, so they're all out of all boys school, but they all look very much alike.
Yes.
And I will not lie, I could not tell some of them apart, and it was like. But then I realized, this is intentional. You intentionally cast people who look alike, have similar hair, their hairstyling is still similar, then they have very similar body type, body shape, and then they're all like kind of like spray tan to have the sun expression, which makes it hard to tell them apart.
Yes.
So talking about the casting of these guys.
Yes. So he was very specific with the body type that he wants and the skin tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very specific, and how they're supposed to look. The lead role is a famous actor. He has done a lot of art house cinema, but he has already crossed over to mainstream films and TV. And I think he and Whammy were jurors in a local film festival, and then he expressed his intention that he wanted to work with Whammy, and then so when we were doing this, that he said, "Hey, I'm willing to do it, even if it's just a short film." Then okay, then we cast it around him.
I was gonna ask since you got him first, you cast everyone who looks like him purposely.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was that process like? Because like it kind of
so the other lead, we saw him in a different art house film. And we weren't together at the time we saw the film, but we both was, what do you think of this guy?
Yeah.
And then it just so happens that in the film he didn't have braces. But when he showed up to and he lives in the province, so he's like for example, Bali to Jakarta, like he was somewhere, you had to fly him in. When we did the video auditions for him, and we saw his braces, at first Whammy wanted it removed, but then it became much more kiddie and youthful to have it on. So in the end, we didn't have him take it out.
Braces are hard to remove anyway.
No, we do it for film.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh. I've done it. I've done it for other actors.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so Now talk about casting them and working with the other young actors and finding the other actors, because what was like discussions like with them when you told them, okay, we're casting you because we want you guys to look this very specific way? What kind of discussions as the new guys?
We don't really specifically tell the actors that, but we do have what we call a look test. So we put them together, see if there's chemistry, if they look good together. We make them do, we act them, we give them scenes to act on or some scenarios to play around with, just to see if they click or they match. And they did.
Yeah.
And they did. And so with that, we also look for others, students in the film that either we knew them already, so we asked them to come in, and then others that we asked to come in just didn't work, but the others that came in, even though we didn't ask them, and we have a very good caster as well. Kyle did manage to bring us more boys that looked the part that Whammy wanted, and so we got them all in.
So now I want to ask you about your own personal opinions on the film, because as we said, the film has very particular themes of queerness, of love, of relationships, both platonic and romantic between these boys, but then also the discussions about global warming, and like climate change, and like the world is heating up. Like we can't tell them to go outside is hot right now, but like it's like you ask yourself, is it worth getting into relationships when the world is literally on fire, right? And then so like there's all of these different themes in the film. So I want to ask you about your own thoughts on the film, and like how you felt about the film before production, during production, and after.
I was very, very intrigued with the concept of, okay, how do you create a world that's dying, that's both that both is super hot and it has drought, but then there's a tsunami as well.
A tsunami, right? From a lake, because I was like, there's no ocean. I'm like, it was.
No, it's supposed to be an ocean front, like the place was supposed to.
Oh, really? I couldn't tell because I was in
because when we did plan to shoot in that place, it would cost us so much to just bring everybody there, and so we just had to recreate it using CGI. But it's supposed to be a lake town, by the sea. That was supposed to be the original intention.
Okay. No, but continue.
Yeah, so it's building this world, like I found very intriguing, and how can we recreate such a world, and yet be a rom-com or an art house romantic film.
I was going to say the comedy is very. Again, it's not like a straight up comedy. As you said, it is more like an art house version of comedy and of romance, because it's also kind of dark. Like the romance aspect is kind of dark, because like the discussions they have kind of seem like this borders on obsessive.
I think it's dark is the environment, but the love of the two boys were not. I wouldn't say that it was dark. Right? And it was very intriguing how it was also intriguing for me how he will be able to pull it off. How he'll be able to create this how these two are training to survive the end of the world, but at the same time be tender and loving to each other.
And so the film has already shown in the Philippines. What was the reaction to the Filipino audience? Because again, the Philippines is I keep messing my words. But like Catholicism is the main religion there, and what I know of Filipino culture is that Catholicism is taken very seriously, and they can be very particular about the types of films that
we take Catholicism very seriously, but then also we don't take ourselves too seriously. That's
something I find very intriguing about Filipino people. Like you guys are very quick to make fun of yourself.
Yes, exactly.
As a culture,
and anyone who has been, and this is almost everybody who has studied in a public, not a public school, but in a Catholic school, will relate to things that you see in the film. Like the uniform, the PE uniform.
The PE was like, I was like,
that's a thing.
I was like, but then I was thinking that when you go into the woods to have to do survival, they would tell you like if you have no other choice, your pee is the only thing to have liquid from. So like those kind of visuals are kind of intense.
And that's why it's called water sports.
I know, I figured it right. But then there's also kind of like a fetish kind of aspect to it too. So I was like, I didn't.
And somebody did warn us like we might be we might be like accused of grooming, and kids being gay, and then the title's water sports.
Yeah, I was like, and honestly, when I read the synopsis of the film, that never occurred to me. But then as I was watching the film, I was like, and like I understand why it's called water sports, because it's more about like they can't have water sports because there's no water. So like they have a pool, there's swimmers, but there's no water for them to swim in. You know, that's like, because I got the impression that this school is supposed to be like an athletic school, and they're swimmers, they're competitive swimmers, but there's no water for them to compete in, to swim in, right? That was the impression that I got. And then it's again talking about how if there's no water around, can you still waste water to just play around with, and you can't. So that's where I got it. That's how I get exactly sport. Exactly. But I can see where people would look at it and say some of these visual references with the title, and then they're being queer as
very tongue-in-cheek in a way.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. So like, what kind of reactions have you had from that?
It's very mixed, and some really liked it, and some just enjoyed the visuals. I mean, if you don't understand the film, which is perfectly fine, because it tends to be a little bit on the experimental side. Just enjoy the visuals. Enjoy the visuals, and feel whatever you feel from it, whatever you take from it. You know, do it your own way.
It is, and because I will say, when I was watching the film, I was like, some of these references, I'm like, clearly referencing a penis. Right? But then the thing is like, I like that he's taking these kind of risks, you know, and like he's putting it out there in the audience's faces, because like, I remember I had this discussion with another filmmaker, like I think last year, when I was talking like, why are we as adults still shy about seeing references to the human body on screen? You know, why? But then I have to think about it, and then again, the film is again talking about religion. Like, that's those who grew up in like very conservative religions. Like, I'm in the Caribbean, which is like, it's a bit less conservative. But when I was growing up in the Caribbean, Barbados in the Caribbean, we took those kind of things very seriously. Like, you don't watch films with like nudity. You know, like I would be watching TV with my mom. If my mom sees someone's butt on screen, my mom would be like, "What is that you're watching?" And then I have to turn it off. And like, that kind of conditions you to like be afraid of seeing the human body, not only in person but on screen too, right? So like the film kind of pushes that boundary. So like, why are we so uncomfortable seeing the human body on screen?
And also because of that tradition that we did go through Catholic education all our lives, and so we have that ingrained in ourselves. So now we're trying to break that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a way of, and I think that's one of the things about film. Film is supposed to be pushing boundaries, and it's supposed to be getting us to have these kind of conversations and thinking, why is this wrong to see on screen?
Well, you know? One of the things I love, what I picked up from the panel a while ago, is that everybody was saying we talked about climate change in a very unusual, quirky, tongue-in-cheek way, which is not the usual way it is discussed, and I found that, oh yeah, we did. I mean, I didn't have that in mind then, but then I was like, that's right, and by making something a little more light or easy to take in, maybe that we can convince people more, you know, that way, as opposed to something very doomsday, very harsh and firm and whatnot. Right, okay, maybe that is something that's good. One of the good things about the film.
It is, and like I think it was Kiki that did say, like, usually when you have films talking about queerness and sexuality, the tone is strictly about queerness and sexuality. There's no broader context to the world that we exist in. And this film is saying, look, we can have a film about queerness, we can have a film about sexuality, about romance, but also like these guys, these boys, they exist in a world that is dying, you know, and like that is a part of their reality. Why can't we have a film about this that has a much more broader political context, you know? And it's not just about queer representation. Like, to me, the queerness is accidental to it. It's more about, you got these young people and they have no future. Right? I kind of see like the queerness of me is kind of like just like the background of it. It's more of like they're talking about love, but then they're talking about love with the knowledge that this love is going to end very soon, right? And that's where, to me, and so like I agree with Kiki, like we don't really get to see films or even dramas like that, because I've watched a few like Thai BL dramas and like Filipino BL dramas. Like, one of the actors is the actor from the same drama, Game Boy, and Game Boy is talking about finding love in lockdown, where these two boys meet each other online and they start playing games and they fall in love, because they're getting this idea like, what if lockdown lasts forever?
Yeah.
And they fall in love with someone I can never meet in real life, and we have to meet digitally. So like you have like Game Boy, and then you have like water sports. But then most of the other BL dramas that I've seen don't deal with anything that existential or that political or anything, right?
That's what I like about Filipino filmmakers, that we do have a way of putting some of the issues that are important for us. Because Whammy and I worked also on another BL called Hello Stranger, and it's also during it's also set also during the lockdown, and it's about friendship and issues about self and identity and such. But then we did put in some issues there, and so
yeah, I think that's one of the main differences between Thai BLs and Filipino BLs. Thai BLs are kind of shallow, and they recycle the same.
They do the romance very well, though. I must say they do the romance very well.
But my problem with them is they rely a lot on tropes, and they recycle almost the same 5 storylines over and over and over.
So what we did was we did study the tropes. But then we did try to elevate
avoid the tropes.
No. We used the tropes, but we elevated it.
You elevated it and did something serious instead of
because it is BL, so it is a subgenre, and therefore we don't want to claim that we're doing a BL, but then doing something totally different. So we still try to pay respect to the Thai BLs, the Japanese BLs, and all the other BLs that were made before us.
Yeah, I like the Japanese BLs. Like there's some that are very more mature. Like for me, sometimes I say I
some are too mature for me. Like
there's some
supposed to be kids.
So there's some that I prefer to call male love dramas.
Yeah,
the ones that are actual male adults.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel comfortable calling dramas that are about men in their 30s and 40s big boy love dramas. Because I'm like, these are grown men. Why are we referring to them as boys?
But it's so funny in the Philippines because BL became so popular during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Even to the people outside the LGBT community.
A lot of women that I knew on social media started watching it in lockdown because we need things to watch.
So every time I do a gay film, every time I pitch a gay film to like talent agencies or production companies, they always say, "Oh, it's a BL." Then I don't have the energy to correct you. Yeah. Then I said, because that's basically it. Any queer film for them is
a BL, right? And it's just like, I know with the now you're getting more of the gay dramas about female relationships. No, they're calling GL, girl love. And I'm like, these are women working in an office. Why are you calling them girls? And that just me personally, that bugs me because it feels like you're infantilizing these grown adults.
Well, technically, BL is infantilizing gay love.
It is not only infantilizing men, but it's infantilizing gayness and queerness itself. Yes. Because a lot of it is like again we talked about.
It was invented by women. It was started by women for a women audience.
And a lot of the stories came from fan fiction.
Yeah.
Right? Their stories, they're very shallow stories, and it's very purely about the sexuality of these characters and very little about the interiority of who these people are as.
So we were conscious of that. So when we were doing it, we made sure that we just didn't rely on that, and then we also didn't want it to be just another coming out film because we do have a lot of gay films. We have a very strong tradition and history of gay cinema in the Philippines, and so we wanted to make sure what we do also pays homage to the pioneers.
And treating it seriously, right? And saying that these are real people, these are real situations that are being dealt with, these are real discussions that people are having, like, no, there's many women there's even, I guess, some men, the women that say, like, I can't be bothered to get into a relationship right now because so much is happening. We getting into a relationship, it will be like just one more hassle, right? And
that's exactly why Whammy did Walter Swartz. Like so many things happening in the world, so many things happening in his life, but he just wants love.
I just want love, right? And the film is about that. It's about these two. It's not only just the two male leads, but it's all of the boys. They're forming a community. They're at this school, so they have this one adult who isn't paying them any mind, and they only have themselves to rely on. And I love that that's what I really love about the film. That it is about these boys are like we have ourselves to look after. We can't rely on these adults because these adults are unreliable and facing their own issues, right? And I love that the story is about that because, and I don't want to seem like I'm harping on Thai BLs, but I had stopped watching Thai BLs for like maybe 2 years. I think, no, was it 2? Because the last one I watched was KCrush. And then I watched another one called The Sign, only recently. And one of the reasons I had stopped watching it was because I was just like, I felt like gayness and being gay wasn't was too much the point of the dramas. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm like, give them lives outside of just the main leads even, you know? Like almost every scene has to be the two male leads together. And I'm like, every conversation they have can't be only about their love interest.
Well,
you know?
I guess it may take some time for the audience as well.
I need them to stop adapting fan fictions. That's one of the main problems. But I appreciate water sports, and I appreciate what you and Whammy and even the actors and everyone with this film did, because you're showing that queer films can be about not just sexuality, but it's not just identity. It's about just existing in this world and using art to talk about the issues really impacting people, you know, because especially I think the thing that makes that so attractive to me is coming from North America, and a lot of my work that I do has to do with American cinema and stuff. Like everyone in America is always talking about representation matters, and I always say representation matters only when the stories are beyond representation. Like representation for representation's sake is not real representation. You know, and like films like yours we're not even thinking about that. We're thinking about global warming.
I think a lot of my films have stopped talking about, you know, coming out and
And I love that, and I appreciate that. So I appreciate you and Whammy making art like this, you know, and pushing me. I always appreciate when I watch films, even if they might make me uncomfortable for some reason, like perhaps dealing with my own issues coming up in a very conservative household, or a very conservative religion, or whatever, making me think about things more deeply and pushing me past my own boundaries. And I'm always appreciative of that. So, and like, even if it's a film that I might not like, and I do like water sports, that's what I say, but even if it's for a film that I might not like, I still appreciate that the film can make me think about something new and different, right? And water sports provides a lot of that. A lot of that. There's layers to this film, right? So many things, like even the whole reference to the dinosaurs and the extinction of the dinosaurs, the little toys and everything. There's layers to that. And I think the work that you and Whammy is doing, and you as a producer facilitating him and giving him the space to make the art that he's making is very important.
And I'm really thankful for festivals like Minikino, and then our next festival is at the Fantastic Film Festival.
Right.
And then we're going to the New York Film Festival. Yeah, and then Chicago Film Festival. So quite a bit of North American.
Are you traveling to all those?
I wanted to go to Fantastic because I've never been, but then Busan's happening, and Busan's the biggest in Asia, and it's very important for us. Plus, of course, I have a documentary that's premiering there, and then so I'll be skipping, because if I have to so like crazy, like I will go back tomorrow morning in Manila. And I fly out 12 noon for Busan. And then I come home like at night, and then the following morning I fly to New York.
No.
And then I'll stay in the US till Chicago.
And Chicago's when?
October.
Well, okay, so that gives you time to rest and relax and recover from the crazy jet lag and the crazy flight schedule.
And then after that, I still have like 2 other festivals.
Crazy.
Like one after
that's kind of insane. So the film at Busan is the documentary. That's the documentary.
It's about voguing. Voguing in the underground ballroom scene in Southeast Asia, and how it was started by these trailblazers from Manila, Kuala Lumpur, and Thailand.
Is it also going to touch on the history of the ballroom in the ballroom culture in the US?
Just a little bit, yes. Of course, we always look towards the inspiration, the people who founded it, and we actually did bring the profiles to New York. So did one of them walk the latex ball, one of them joined his house, and things like that.
Oh, that's cool, because I know like not only is ballroom culture like super popular in Southeast and East Asia now, but like also not and voguing, but the shows Drag Race. They originally started as RuPaul's Drag Race, and then it extended across into Asia. Like
there's a Philippine version, the Philippine Drag Race, right?
Right.
Now the episode they called it Slation, because they brought in all the Asian contestants from all over the world to come to the Philippines to compete with the Filipino drag.
Okay, I saw someone on Twitter mention Slation. I'm like,
Slation. So it's Drag Race Philippines Slation. Slation Royale, I think that's what.
I saw someone make reference because I think one of the drag queens that takes part was the person posted a picture on social media, and I think the person's name is Tessa.
So I think there's an American one. I think there's a Canadian. There's from UK, France. Australia, I think, or New Zealand. And then,
Yeah, I saw the reference also. So it's funny, that's kind of funny how the world works. Like I saw someone mention on Twitter last night, I know you're mentioning your film is referenced in that, so that's great. I'd hope to...
Within our film is not about
I don't mean that it's about, but I mean but like the cultures of it is, and that's what it is in the ballroom culture. Drag race and drag queens are part of the ballroom culture, and it is all intertwined with voguing and that kind of stuff. And it's a very interesting subgenre, a subculture that I'm not in it, and I don't watch the drag race shows, but so much of my friends do, and like I'm always seeing commentary on Twitter. And it's become interesting watching that all evolve live on social media. Social media is such an interesting place to watch cultures change and evolve. And so, like, I'll be interested to see the documentary one. And I think it's great that a documentary about voguing got accepted into BIF, considering like how conservative Korea is as a country. But I think their film culture and their festival cultures are opening up so much to films like about queerness and about voguing and all these different things that are supposed that people were told you have to keep this like below ground, you can't think, but no, you have like these film festivals that accept new films about this, and I think that's amazing. And I think also credit to you and the filmmaker that is being accepted at a festival like this. So like congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go. I know you have to go going back this evening. So. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. This film, water sports is something else. And I mean that in a good way, because like it really did make me think a lot about why am I uncomfortable with this, but then also just thought about like the amount of work that went into this film. The amount of work that went into this film just for the visuals alone. The editing process must have been crazy. Like kudos to everybody. I think it's Carlos that was the editor for the film, right? So like Carlos, if you watch this, like congratulations to you. But thank you so much, Alemberg.
Thank you.
Congratulations.